What makes someone just walk away from one of the greatest spiritual teachers in history? It's not always a crisis of faith. Sometimes, it's a crisis of expectation. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating ancient story about a disciple who demanded proof, got it, and still walked away. Let's get into why.
This right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. The complaint comes from a man named Sunakata, and he was a pretty prominent disciple of the Buddha. He's not upset about the teachings. No, he's upset about the lack of a show. He feels like he's owed some kind of spectacle, and he's just not getting it.
And look, this isn't some quiet little disagreement behind closed doors. Oh no, Sunakata makes a very public, very dramatic break. He goes around telling anyone and everyone who will listen that he is done with his teacher. It's a move that's clearly designed to create a scandal and maybe even undermine his teacher's authority.
So when word gets back to the Buddha, he confronts Sunakata directly. And Sunakata, he doesn't back down. He says it right to his face, "I now renounce the Blessed One." It's just this blunt, shocking rejection that really sets the stage for what becomes a total masterclass in logic and psychology.
Now, this slide breaks it down perfectly. You see the fundamental conflict right here. The Buddha's entire teaching, the whole point, is a practical path to end your own personal suffering. But Sunakata, he's not really interested in the path. He's demanding a performance, some proof of power. Their goals just couldn't be more different.
So, how does the Buddha handle this? Not with anger, nope. He comes back with two just devastatingly simple questions. And with these two questions, he completely reframes the whole argument and exposes this huge flaw in Sunakata's thinking. First, he asks, "Sunakata, did I ever say to you, 'Hey, come follow me and I'll perform a bunch of superhuman miracles for you?' This question just cuts right to the heart of it. Was there a deal? Was there some kind of contract that was broken here?" And Sunakata, well, he's stuck. He has to admit the truth. "No," he replies. "There was no promise. He created this expectation all on his own. His entire complaint is based on a promise that was never, ever made." Then comes the follow-up, the second, crucial question. The Buddha asks, "Okay, so let's forget the miracles for a second. Whether I perform them or not, does the path I teach actually work? Does it lead to the end of suffering for the person who follows it?" He totally shifts the focus from the teacher's power to the teaching's effectiveness. And again, what can he say? He has to admit it. Yes, the path works. Even this doubting disciple has to concede that the core teaching is effective. So think about it. His complaint has absolutely nothing to do with the actual goal of the practice. He's basically complaining that his perfectly good car can't fly.
But okay, this is where the story takes a really wild turn. Because the Buddha then reveals that Sunakata has, in fact, seen exactly the kind of proof he claims he's never seen. And he starts with this bizarre story of a man who acted like a dog.
So, Sunakata had become a big fan of this other ascetic, a guy named Korakatiya. This man's practice involved extreme self-mortification by crawling on all fours and eating food right off the ground, just like a dog. And Sunakata saw this spectacle and thought, "Wow, now there is a true holy man."
The Buddha, knowing about Sunakata's misguided admiration, made a shocking prophecy. He told him exactly what was going to happen to this so-called saint. Sunakata, being the skeptic he is, decides to just wait and see. He secretly starts marking off the days, absolutely certain his teacher was about to be proven wrong.
And the Buddha didn't just make one vague prediction. He made five incredibly specific, totally verifiable predictions about this man's fate. I mean, just look at this list. He predicted the exact day of death. The cause? Not something grand, but indigestion, of all things. Then, the man's specific rebirth, the exact location where his body would be dumped, and, get this, for the final undeniable proof, he said the corpse itself would confirm its own fate if you asked it. So, on the seventh day, everything happened, exactly as foretold. Sunakata went to the cemetery, asked the corpse, and it literally rose up, confirmed its rebirth, and then fell down, lifeless again. So when the Buddha later asked him, "So was that a superhuman miracle or not?" Sunakata had to say yes, but unbelievably he still complained that the Buddha never performed miracles for him. It's just staggering.
And this wasn't a one-off thing. The Buddha then shows Sunakata that this is his whole deal. It's a repeating pattern of blindness. Time and again, he has shown undeniable proof, and time and again, he just chooses to ignore it, to explain it away, to pretend it just never happened.
And this table here just perfectly illustrates the cycle. Sunakata finds some flashy ascetic he admires. The Buddha predicts that ascetic's downfall with stunning accuracy. The prediction comes true, and Sunakata admits it, only to go right back to his original complaint. It's a baffling pattern of denial, and this final case is really the most telling of all.
This final case is the most dramatic. It involves another rival ascetic, a man so full of arrogance he decides to challenge the Buddha to a public duel of miracles, which leads to a pretty powerful and humiliating lesson.
So this ascetic, Padikputta, is going all over town boasting, "Whatever miracle the Buddha can do, I can do twice as well." He publicly challenges him to a showdown, and it creates a huge buzz. Sunakata, of course, brings this challenge to the Buddha, probably thinking, "Yes, finally, I'm going to get the show I've been waiting for."
But the Buddha just refuses the spectacle. Instead, he makes another one of his chillingly calm predictions. He says that Patikaputta is so full of empty pride that if he even tries to approach the assembly without first taking back his boast, his body will seize up and he'll be completely paralyzed.
So on the day of the duel, Patikaputta is terrified. He tries to get up, but just as predicted, he can't move. He's frozen in his seat. A messenger then tells him a story. A lowly jackal grew fat and arrogant by eating the leftovers of a mighty lion. The jackal started to think it was a lion, and one day it tried to let out a mighty roar, but all that came out was a pathetic little yelp.
The message was crystal clear. Padikaputta was the jackal, making loud noises but possessing none of the lion's true strength. He'd been living off the spiritual scraps of the Buddha and had mistaken that for his own power. Humiliated and defeated, his challenge just evaporated without a single flashy miracle ever being performed.
So what do we take away from all this? Sunakata's problem wasn't a lack of evidence. He was surrounded by it. His problem was a psychological phenomenon we now call willful blindness. It's the act of intentionally ignoring or refusing to acknowledge facts and evidence that are plainly visible, usually because they contradict what you already want to believe.
And that leaves us with the central question of the entire story, a question that is as relevant today as it was 2,500 years ago. When it comes to any path of growth, whether it's spiritual, intellectual, or personal, what really matters? Is it the journey and its results, or is it the spectacular displays of power along the way? Is the path more important than the proof?